that are on our platform this evening. I will take the roll call of clubs that are visiting outside of Jamaica. Would identify your club and your number of persons in the delegation. Now we go to clubs that are within Division 25. No clubs? Okay, Division 24.
Good evening, PD Paul and fellow Kiwanians. I bring you cool greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Moneague. With me is Kiwanian Delpha. Others might be joining later. I am DLGE Donna Coombs. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to an interested meeting.
Thank you very much, DLG Donna. Always a pleasure to have you.
You're welcome, PD.
Yeah. Are there any other clubs from Division 24? If not, we move to Division 23 West.
Good evening, PD. This is President Nardia of the Kiwanis Club of Greater Portmore. Hi, President and other Kiwanians and guests. I'm seeing so far Assistant Secretary Andrea is with me, but I know that other members will be joining shortly. Always a pleasure to be joining you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Nardia and your delegation for being here. Are there any other clubs from Division 23 West?
Good evening, greetings. This is President Kevin from the Kiwanis Club of Linstead. Bringing greetings on behalf of the diplomats. I'm here with three guests, and we're looking forward to a wonderful meeting. Thank you. Should my number improve, I will, from the club level, I will ensure that I update the chat. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much, President Kevin. Any other clubs from Division 23 West? If not, move to Division 23 East.
Hi, good evening, PD Paul and other members who are on. This is DLG Sharon Williams representing the Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. I'm not seeing any of my other members just yet, but even if I'm solo, it's really great being here. Always great being here with the men of Kingston Club. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for joining DLG, Sharon. It's always a pleasure to have you. I'm sure others will join you shortly.
Hopefully.
Yes. All right.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I'm from 23 West.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. This evening we have 4 members joining with us, along with our President Janet. And we are from the Sunshine City, Portmore, and we are happy to be here with you. This is President Designate elect Lutricia Deslandes.
Thank you very much for joining. Are there any other clubs from 23 East?
Hi, good night, PD Paul. This is Secretary LaShawn from the Kiwanis Club of Worthington, Kingston, bringing greetings on behalf of my President Nikita. We have a delegation of 3 members, which include Treasurer Designate Marjorie, Director Jacqueline, and myself. We're looking forward to a great meeting as usual, and my President should be joining shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Letitia.
Good evening.
LaShawn, my apologies. Yes, go ahead.
From 23 West, DS Noel, from the Kiwanis Club of Guysdale. We bring splendid greeting to you. I must thank DLG Willie Reese for the invitation. With me is one person, our DP, Marian. For now, others should be joining. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining as well. Okay, can I move to Division 23 Central? Are there any clubs from Division 23 Central? Okay. Can we hear from our SLPs? No SLPs?
Good night, everyone. I am President Gabriel Heron from the St. Hughes High School Key Club. I am currently by myself, but hoping for more to come along shortly.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other SLPs?
Hello, good night, everyone. This is President Joshua here from the Mike University College Circle P International Club. And here with me is CP Joan Phipps Bennett and District Secretary Dana Denton. And again, we are really glad to be at another meeting and I'm looking forward to a wonderful event.
Thank you very much, President Joshua. Okay.
Good evening, PD Paul.
Yes, good evening.
And fellow Kiwanians. This is not an SLP, not a SLP, but from Division 25. This is PE Marshalline from the Kiwanis Club of Darlington Supreme, bringing you cool greetings on behalf of our president and other club members. I'm alone at the moment, but others will be joining shortly.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, can we move on to are there any visitors on our platform, visitors of Kiwanians? Are there any other visitors, the press, or anyone who
Hi, good evening, PD Paul. I'm ready to say you're a regular visitor. Just looking forward to a good evening.
Okay, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Yes.
PD Paul, this is Sharon. Just let me know that I'm seeing our director designate Judith joining. Okay. If any others come, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, dear. Thank you very much. It's okay. All right. I think that completes it. President, over to you, sir.
Thank you, President Designate Paul. We have 4 apologies for absence. Osage DP Earl and DP Stuart Spencer, chairman of our committee, were unavoidably absent. To bring us recognition of birthdays and anniversaries, I invite VP Designate and Bulletin Editor Newton Grandad. Over to you, Newton.
Thank you, President Richard. Good night, everyone. This week for our special occasions, I will start with You're hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. This week we will start with the anniversaries first. And the first anniversary that we're going to is this distinguished Secretary Jeffrey Madden and Carol. They are celebrating their anniversary on the 8th. Now today is the 6th, so that means that the 8th would be on Thursday, right? We also have Kiwanian Anthony Harris and Leonie who celebrate their anniversary on the 9th. Then we move on to the birthdays. We have DP Gian Demel who celebrates his birthday tomorrow. So please remember, give him a call tomorrow. And we have DP Irvin McNally who celebrates his big day on the 12th. Now, I just heard President Richard says that he's not here, but the atlas of our club, the man who holds the club meetings on his shoulder, who is DP Stuart Spencer, he celebrates his birthday on the 10th of this month. And as we know, you tend to leave the major for last. So, last but not least, our own President Major Richard Reese, he celebrates his big day on the 7th, which is tomorrow. So I don't know what he likes, stewed pork, fried fish or whatever, but you can find out after this meeting and you can all flood them with that.
Well,
right?
white tail there is in order.
Well, that is imported stuff, so I don't think we can find it.
Locally hunted.
you might have to suffer for 2 mother goat from St. Elizabeth. Is there anyone else in this meeting tonight who has a special day coming up this week, next week, just past, you want to share with us? We're listening. No one?
Just to say that the best goats come from St. Elizabeth.
Oh, and that's and I want to tell you something, Blanzo. We, even though it's a mother goat, we are giving the a white-tail deer, we have to give him the best. That's why we say St. Elizabeth.
Right, tasty.
Ah. Anyone else with a special occasion coming up?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm President Joshua from MICA. My birthday is on the 17th of July, so I realize that a lot of persons from this club are from July. And so as District Secretary Dana Denton, her birthday is on the 22nd of July as well.
All right, well, President Joshua, I only wish you a happy birthday when it comes, but we will, because we're going to have another meeting before your birthday, we will make sure to wish you happy birthday again next week.
Definitely, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any special occasion coming up? Okay, well, with that, I think it's time to pass it over to I think I'll take liberty to say the birthday boy, President Major Richard Reese.
Yes, actually feeling like 5. Thank you. Not 65, 5. Okay. One is education.
Thank you, President Richard. For Kiwan's education tonight, I'm going to look at Article 10 under the Kiwan's Club of Kingston's bylaws.
Background, Willie.
Yes, I'm back, President Richards. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we're hearing you clearly.
Okay, for tonight's Kiwan's education, I thought we start looking at our own club standard form for club bylaws and policies. Article 10 deals with bylaws and policies. 10.1, this club will incorporate or register as required by law with the proper government authorities and maintain such incorporation or registration. 10.2, these bylaws will only be amended to comply with the standard form for club bylaws as approved now or in the future by Kiwanis International. Amendments may be adopted by 2/3 vote of the club members present and voting, provided at least 14 days previous notice is given to the members. Each club bylaws and any amendments thereto are not effective unless approved by Kiwanis International. 10.3, if any provision of these bylaws is determined to be invalid, all other provisions still remain in effect. 10.4, the club membership shall consider and adopt the mandatory club policies required by Kiwanis International, which complete provisions stated in the bylaws. Adopting shall be by 2/3 vote of the club members present and voting, provided at least 14 days previous notice is given to the club members. Finally, 10.5, the club board may adopt other club policies that are not in contravention of the applicable laws, club bylaws, Kiwanis International bylaws, and district bylaws by at least a majority vote of the club board members present and voting, provided at least 14 days previous notice is given to the board members. President Richard, that's the Kiwanis education for this evening.
Thank you, Dear Willie. Now, the main event, President-designate Paul Peart has the privilege of introducing our guest speaker, and I'll ask DP Desmond Batchelor to again check and mute all participants as we go into the guest speaker's presentation and his introduction.
Yes, thank you very much, President Richard. It takes me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this evening, Johan D.A. Simpson, an attorney at law with a Master's of Law in Intellectual Property from the University of Turin, WIPO, 2010, called to the Jamaican Bar in 2004. Having completed studies at the University of the West Indies, Mona, with a bachelor's of art in geography and an LLB in law from K-Ville, as well as the Norman Manley Law School. A consummate team leader with a diverse but focused skill set, convinced that the engagement and strategic exploitation of IP is a fundamental game changer in the approaches to world trade. He's a trained and certified as a public procurement professional, accredited in corporate governance, as well as project management and civil aviation management. In addition, Mr. Simpson is also a mentor, advocate, and lecturer in the areas of intellectual property law, entertainment law, and cultural enterprise management. This proud son of Glenmuir High School in Clarendon is currently the general manager for legal and corporate services for one of Jamaica's leading regulatory bodies. Is also the chairman of the Jamaica Reggae Industry Association and is an adjunct lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Mona, in the Institute of Caribbean Studies. Fellow Kiwanis and guests, I present to you Mr. Simpson, who will give us a talk on entertainment as a business in Jamaica. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Kiwanians, for welcoming me. There are people who have been trying to conspire to get me to become a Kiwanian. I'm not resisting. It is just not yet happened. Let me just place that on the table, so that I'm not seen to be doing violence against your mission. But I am happy to have been invited to be here. It's a pleasure to have a conversation about what I consider to be my life's pet project. And it is about trying to lift our perspective as a nation on matters surrounding entertainment. And so I decided that we were going to have a conversation today on entertainment as business and not business as usual. There is a general perception of entertainment as frivolous. When we, and by the way, I know that people tend to come with beautiful slides and the formal presentations. I like to have conversations and I like to interact with my audience. So despite the fact that this is virtual, so to speak, questions can flow in the chat. People can raise their hands and we can have a conversation. I am not your typical lawyer who likes to talk forever. 30 minutes is a whole lot of time for us to have good conversation. So let me just place that on the table. But I want to talk about our perception of entertainment as being frivolous. And it's a thing that we have inherited this side of the world. We don't see entertainment as business. When people think of entertainment from this part of the world, we think of round robins, parties, fetes, gatherings, gatherings of friends. We may even think of concerts. We may think of plays and so on. But there's a general perception of entertainment which makes it co-curricular or extracurricular. If you are to be a participant in the entertainment industry, people will say, okay, yes, it's the one that wasn't so bright, the one that couldn't become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or, or any of those professions, If you can't become from the professions, then you become an entertainer, which is an also ran. So there is this general perception that the people who do that are not involved in serious endeavor. Because of that, we have not managed to train, engage, certify a significant enough cohort of Jamaicans to participate in a formal entertainment industry outside. And because of that,
May I ask you to mute, Ramon? May I ask you to mute your microphone, please?
Good, thank you. So because of that, we have had all sorts of chicken and egg circumstances in the context of entertainment. So, but I want us to take just a quick look. Jamaica's entertainment product was estimated in 2019 to be worth $1.3 billion. As frivolous as it sounds, 1.3 billion US dollars. Not Jamaican dollars, US dollars. Now, that by any measure has to be a serious industry. But one of the unfortunate things about it is that despite the fact that it is 1.3 billion US dollars, Jamaica has not even begun to scratch the surface of what it is worth in the global economy for entertainment. When you think about it, Jamaican practitioners earn, for example, Jamaican artists, performing artists, earn less than 10% of their income in Jamaica. The majority of it is earned outside of Jamaica because of the potential and the possibilities and the industries that exist outside of Jamaica. And I'm talking about for Jamaican material. And this is just the music industry. We haven't gone yet into discussions about film and animation and content management and all of these other things that we need to talk about. So what are we here talking about when we're talking about the entertainment industry? It is not just round robins. Yes, it is round robins. Yes, it is parties. Yes, it is plays and so on. But it is also content creation for entertainment purposes, educational purposes, informational purposes. It is also cinematography. It is also gastronomy. It is hospitality. It is sports. And there is nobody in this room who, if given the opportunity, would not become a parent or sibling or manager or beneficiary of a young man by the name of Usain Bolt, or a young woman by the name of Shelley Ann Fraser, or an even younger man by the name of Robert Nesta Marley. It's based simply on their economic value, on what they have brought in economic value to the Jamaican space, but also what they have brought in cultural value, in brand value, in global recognition. So when we take all of this in context, why do we see entertainment as joke business, frivolous business? Why is it that we do not look at entertainment in the same way we look at manufacturing, in the same way we look at even hospitality, which, strictly speaking, is a subset of entertainment? Why don't we see it in the same way we see banking and finance? I think it is because we have been cultured to devalue that which we have as our greatest competitive advantage as a nation. Consider that Jamaica produces per capita more creative products than any other country in the world. Jamaica produces per capita more creative products than any other country in the world. Think about our population size and think about what we produce. If we take it even from the perspective of what is frivolous, let us talk about pre-COVID. How many dance forms we created per month? Just dance forms alone. And there are people who think that the measure of a country is indicated by the measure of its creative space and the productivity in its creative space. So let's just use dance. Let's not even go to songs that are being produced. Dance forms were being created in Jamaica by the dozen per week. So many of them were being exported to Japan, to France, all over the world. We were selling them in bits and pieces. What is the economic value that was coming back to Jamaica? Very minuscule. Why? Because, again, our practitioners were doing it for the love. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with doing it for the love. But when you do it for the love, what does it do back for you? There is a kind of mentality that we have been taught that it is okay to be an artist if you do it for the value of the art. It mustn't be that which sustains you. You mustn't do it as your livelihood because you can't be serious. So when we have something like an Edna Manley College, that is one of the most underfunded tertiary institutions in the country, we understand what our general rubric is. We understand what our national approach is to matters of culture and entertainment, regardless of what we say at Independence Time and at some other times when it is appropriate to say so. When you think about the fact that financial institutions are yet to come up to speed with respect to using intellectual property as collateral, when the rest of the world is already way down the wicket with that, we are preventing ourselves. These very financial institutions are sabotaging their own ability to earn from the creative space and from the entertainment industry. So let me help us to get a little picture of what the entertainment industry includes. Apart from the things I mentioned earlier, which would include round robberies and all those things, let's just talk about the music industry for a second. Because people think of music industry and all they think when they think music industry is some DJs and some artists jumping up and down, making noise and carrying on back. But within the music industry, we have composers, authors, publishers, publicists, managers, accountants, agents, creative designers, sound audio engineers, production managers, stage managers, technicians. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for all that is available.
LG, Trevor, may I ask you to mute your microphone, please?
Or send an email to information.
Trying to find you.
Then, of course, we have the performers. But it is a huge superstructure before we get to them. Then the entertainment industry also includes film and animation. And that is another whole superstructure that includes screenplay writers, copywriters, grips, floor managers, production managers, executive producers, translators, actors, editors, cinematographers, photographers, audio text composers, all of these things. And then, of course, we go into, I see somebody saying game development. That is another whole industry that we have not capitalized on properly. If you imagine what happens when a song goes into the gaming industry, just one song, and just imagine it's a matter of numbers. Let's just think numbers for a second. If we have a song that is used in a game and it receives 10 cents per appearance, 10 US cents per appearance, and there are 10 million hits on that game. I'm not so strong at maths. I did law, I did geography, I did the non-math part of geography. But if we do 10 cents times $10 million, CP Jordan Phillips says, enough. Just do the math, that's one song in one game. 10 cents times 10 million hits. And 10 million hits is very easy in the gaming industry. Because those of us in here who are gamers, or who have sons or grandsons or cousins or nephews or boyfriends or girlfriends or whomever that are involved in gaming, understand the kind of passion that is involved in FIFA alone. And that's a part of the entertainment industry. So I want us to appreciate, and I just spoke about a piece of music in a piece of gaming. Animation is a big deal. We love all these movies that are animated movies. There are advertisements that are animation. There are all sorts of documentaries. There are all sorts of informational content for education that is animated. Animation gives general information in large public spaces. And what is hurtful to me is that every time Jamaicans go to the world fairs, to the technical fairs, our students from UTech and Northern Caribbean and University of the West Indies beat everybody in the world on quality. Every time. We beat everybody in the world on quality. But we come back home to an environment which says that is what you do as extracurricular at university. Now get to serious work and become a serious engineer to build bridges and roads. Okay? And then how do we build bridges and roads? Do we use them? But that's a political discussion. I'm not going there. The point I'm making is we are not utilizing our competitive advantage in the global space. There is something called the orange economy in the global space. And it is interesting, an interesting paradox, because orange is generally associated, and we're not talking about in Jamaica now, because we're not going to the political meanings. We're talking about globally, with youth and excitement and fun and freedom. And so this was coined the orange economy because it dealt with the creative space and all of these things. And I want to read something for you regarding the orange economy that was written by the person who coined the term. It was a name given in 2011 by British writer John Hawkins, and it referred to everything that was developed through people's creativity. Some people call it creative industries. Some people call it the orange economy. But listen to this. There's a gentleman called Felipe Buitrago, and he said this in 2016. If the creative economy were a product, it would have the 5th greatest volume of business in the world. Now, bear in mind that Jamaica has the greatest competitive advantage in something which could be the 5th greatest volume of business in the world. Are we serious? But it would also be the 4th economic power if it were a country. And it would have a GDP of $4.3 billion, that country, US dollars. It would have 2.5 times the planet's military expenditure and a total of 144 million workers. We're talking in numbers because people get excited about numbers. People get excited about data. But in Jamaica, we don't see that potential because we do not see it as business. We see it as business as usual. We see it as a group of disorganized people who are not doing anything in the formal economic space. They don't pay no tax. They don't follow the rules. They do all sorts of things that are unreasonable. But here's my challenge, and here is what I am asking us to join me in understanding. If you walked onto an island and you saw fruits growing wild, fruits that you knew were in great demand all over the world, would you walk around, crush the fruits, eat what you like, talk about it, and then curse the trees? Or would you find a way to gather the fruits, sell some, process some, so we add value, and create an entire industry out of it? Because you would have understood what the market looks like. And so, what would you do? Most of us would have responded by saying, we would find the business opportunity. Now, some people may disagree with me, and that's okay. We can disagree, and we can agree to disagree, and we can come back and agree later. The boundless creativity that exists in Jamaica is like fruits falling from trees. The boundless creativity that exists in Jamaica, the creative products that are spewed out every day by DJs and artists, and I'm talking about graphic artists, visual artists, all the boundless creative content that is being produced every day is like fruit falling from trees. And we have people who are schooled in business, economics, international trade, all of these things, who are ignoring those fruits, walking all over them, or making a path to walk through them, and ignoring the business opportunity that exists. And so because of that, we don't encourage our students from prep school or primary school, high school or secondary school, tertiary level, college or university, to invest their learning in things that would advance an entertainment economy in Jamaica. We don't. We have, everybody goes to the Mona School of Business to study management, international business, all these nice and bossy things. To work where? To do what? For whom? When we have an economy that could benefit from the exploitation, and when I use the word exploitation, I want you to understand it's a term of art that means the appropriate use of intellectual property and entertainment products. So we are here with the fruits falling all around us, and we complaining that we need to get all sorts of assistance from overseas to do all kinds of things, when we have the ability to pull ourselves out of the rut that we are by using the fruits that are falling on the ground around us and that are hanging from the trees right around us, which is our entertainment product. Our bankers need to think about it. Our investment banks, our investors, the people who are buying stocks and shares, Main Event Limited, listed on the stock market. How many people know that? How many people know that when they see all these wonderful ads and all of these beautiful things, that these are from companies that function in the entertainment industry, who are providing very high quality products to Jamaica, that are providing very high quality output in the entertainment industry to Jamaica, world-class products. We don't know. And so when I hear people saying, well, those entertainers are a waste of time, it is because we don't appreciate what it is. But I want to bring it a little closer to us. When I said earlier that is 1.3 billion US dollars that is valued, and we have about 77,000 people directly involved in entertainment. Consider that almost everybody in this room is directly related to entertainment in one way or the other. We consume it, whether for free or for pay, or we produce it, or we transmit it, or all three. But we don't see ourselves as that because we don't expect our direct income to come from it. So we look at it as that thing over there. But if we think about the principle of backward and forward linkages, I want to use an example of a concert which we had in 2018, or was it 2019? 2019, it might have been, it would have been 2019, yes. A concert called Long Walk to Freedom. That concert was held for one night in the National Stadium. All flights into Jamaica were overbooked. I'm starting at outside. All flights to Jamaica were overbooked. Our airports were super busy. So not a drum don't knock yet, not a speaker don't turn on yet. We're talking about flights, hotels. Jamaica is our destination. Those people have to get into hotels. Those people must be transported. So transportation is now doing business. We're talking backward and forward linkages. Security services must work. If flights are booked, economic systems, financial systems have to be in place. Credit cards are flying, banknotes are flying, money is being exchanged. People have to be fed. Security has to be in place. The hotels are full, everything that functions around a full hotel, including food. The farmers are now selling more. The vendors are now selling more. The people who make clothes, the stores who sell clothes, the people who are buying souvenirs, all of these things are now making money. So when we think about it, it is when we talk about an entertainment product, we're not just talking about something that those people do. And all of those people, whether they are Juta drivers, or they are JCF, or they are a security company, or they are people who provide sanitation services, or people who move garbage otherwise, or people who provide security, whether it be cyber security or physical security, all those people are now earning more. And when they are earning more, their children are benefiting, their spouses are benefiting, their family members are benefiting. And that is a multiplier economically. So when we think about it, and we examine it a little more closely than we normally do, we realize that entertainment as business is an opportunity that we are losing as a major economic driver for the country. I always ask the question, what do we know Silicon Valley for? What is it that Silicon Valley is famous for? What is it that we know Dallas, Texas for? What is it that we say that Trinidad is good at? What is France known for? These spaces capitalize on their competitive advantage to build their economies. The Industrial Revolution is that which built Britain. And so they were known to be the ones who could have the factories and the machines and all of these things. And that's how they separated themselves from the rest of the world when they did. Jamaica does not have the land space to compete in any of those major industries. But there is something called the third wave, the third industrial revolution, that does not require that kind of space at all. It requires a headspace that we already have, a creative space that we already have. And the question is, why not? Why are we not capitalizing on it? Because we do not have the cultural exposure and the political will. There is a little thing called K-pop that some of us, like me, are too old to understand. But it is one of the biggest global economic forces in culture right now. It makes more money than Jamaica makes as a nation, that one genre of music. Now, if we thought about it, K-pop just come the other day. Reggae has been here from the 70s. And reggae cannot claim that kind of economic value. And it is not because our people are any less disciplined, organized, or talented. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the challenge? We have to generally take a different view. And I thought it was important to raise this among persons who want to move their people and their nation forward. I thought it was important to raise it in this context, because when we think about it, we will encourage our children to study creative industries entrepreneurship, to study artist management, to study audio engineering, to study engineering, electrical engineering, so that we are producing things that are creating our sounds and reproducing our sounds better than anything else in the world. So that we are creating applications that advance what we do for ourselves. That we are creating content spaces, and we're doing designs and all of these things that advance what we do. Because intellectual property is the world's new diamond, is the world's new oil. And that exists in Jamaica. So I don't want to be preaching for much longer. I just want to expose us to some facts and to raise these issues that if we think about it and we think about what brand Jamaica is globally and how easy it is for us to market what we have, we would put the systems that we have behind the products that we have. And I'm not asking everybody to support dancehall. I'm not asking everybody to support roots rock reggae. I'm not asking everybody to support ska or rocksteady. I'm not asking everybody to support Mentor. I'm saying there are so many different versions. And Jamaican entertainment is so textured. I have not even gone into Jamaican gastronomy, which is a part of how our entertainment product is sold. If we spoke about the festival economy, we're talking about when we have a jerk festival that happened in Florida to 12,000 people this weekend gone. 12,000 people gathered in an open space 90 minutes away from here for a jerk festival, one of the first big events to occur in Florida post-pandemic. And we are here not capitalizing on that which we have for business endeavor. Why is it that we do not have specialist doctors looking at our sports practitioners, our dancers, fixing the vocal cords of our singers and vocalists and media technicians? Why don't we have people who are studying the effects of the amount of light that we have on the streets, on people's eyes, and how we get this right? Why don't we have that happening here? Is it that we lack the ability to be sophisticated in our exposure to matters of entertainment and culture? I think not. I just think that collectively we need to have the conversation so that we can make Jamaica truly realize its potential as the greatest little nation on this earth. Thanks for listening to my rant, everybody. I will take questions or comments.
Yes, we have DP Newton. VP Newton, could you check the chat for questions from participants, or if anyone would wish to make a comment? I think DP Stewart has joined us. DP Stewart, are you back with us?
Yes, I am. I am back, President.
Yes.
Just that I didn't get the presentation from the beginning.
No, I'm just.
So I was just. But I am back, and I'm back, and I'm online.
Is where we're fielding questions from our participants, and if VP Newton could just check the chat as well.
All right, President. I see two things in the chat that I would want to bring up. One of them says that some artists don't want to talk business. Some just want to hold a vibe. Sir Yuan, what is your take on that? And how does that affect them moving forward in the industry?
I agree with that perspective entirely. Some artists don't want to talk business. They want to hold a vibe. They want to be creative, and there is nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is that there needs to be somebody who understands business, who then manages that creative artist so that he can remain creative. He can be the product and you can be the businessman. Bob Marley was a product. He understood that he was a product, and he knew that if he was a malleable product, a manageable product, then his children will never be on the street side begging bread. So he made himself available to people who would manage him. I don't know if Chris Blackwell knows the difference between C sharp major and F major. I don't know that he does, but he's a businessman who understood how to move a product globally. And so Island Records happened. And Bob Marley became an international superstar. So the point is, and that is why I'm calling out to the people who have those skill sets. When I spoke about people studying international business and international law, I mean, just think about what that could mean if we were focusing that on selling what we have. If we had oil off the shores of Jamaica, every kid who leaves high school would go to the university to either study petroleum management or engineering with respect to petroleum, chemical engineering, or mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all to move the petroleum industry forward. All the people who were doing international business would be thinking about how they do futures and how they sell oil on this market and all of those. That's what they would be doing. So why is it that we are not using those subject areas to advance the product that we have? These artists don't need to be anything but creative, but there needs to be management available that they can lean on. They are like fruits falling from trees, and we need to organize it.
All right, another question, which is almost like a part two of that first one, was there's a popular clip, I think it's on television, of Lekem Semaj saying that, you know, some artists are uncontrollable. The only thing that can control them is the courts and prison. How widespread do you think that is? And if it is widespread, how do you think we can go about changing that culture? Because you see, a lot of the artists who have talent, they tend to come from a certain socioeconomic background. And I don't know if it's in order to protect themselves, feeling vulnerable that other people might want to take disadvantage of them, they come across in a certain way. First of all, do you think that is widespread, that view is widespread? And two, if it is, what way do you think we can go to try and change that, even a little at a time?
It is a widespread view that is unfortunate. And let me tell you why I say that. In every area of Jamaican society, we have persons who are uncontrollable, who can only be managed by prisons or death. We have them in the clergy. We have them in the practice of law. We have them in medicine. We have them in the security forces. We have them in education. We have them in banking and finance. We have them all over. The difference is that we have an overarching perception of those other professions that say that they are pristine, that say that they are preeminent, and that they have rules and principles. So because we think that entertainment has no rules, no principles, no structure, no anything, we believe that everybody who is involved with it is a criminal or is just arbitrary. And it is farthest from the truth. It is an issue of opportunity and it's an issue of support. There are so many people who leave Jamaica on a daily basis to represent Jamaica globally, professionally in the entertainment industry. And I will dare say the majority of them do that. But make one artist go on TV and say something bad, and you hear says all of them. Bear in mind that because of what entertainers do, they have increased visibility. Because what they do panders to a mass audience. It's about seeing them when you see their product. So whatever they do, whether it is good or bad, it is going to come into the public eye for scrutiny. And so we make the connection between the artist, his art, and anything that happens in the creative space. So I'm not saying that we don't have many of those, but I'm saying it's not the majority. And I'm saying that like anybody else, there are so many stories of banking executives who came from the ghetto barefoot, who came from country carrying water on their head, who used to block shop, who were moved into a different way because they saw an opportunity to improve their lives. It happens with sportsmen. It happens with all sorts of people. And it's about If we would decide that we would tap into those fruits falling off the trees and show them another way, wash them off a little, trim off the edges off of them and the leaves and so, and put it in a nice package and send it go foreign, we would see an entirely different approach to our industry.
I have a question.
DP Stewart, CP Jones' hand has been up for quite a long
Go ahead.
time. Can you recognize her? Thank you.
Sure.
Joan? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bachelor, and thank you, Mr. Simpson, for your excellent presentation. Because I am here muted and just throwing up hands and all of this in the background, because I hold this topic very, very dear to my heart. Not only because I'm in the entertainment industry as well as you spoke about, but also a past student of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. So I understand in terms of honing your craft and then going out there, and the whole culture of the industry is not what you would have expected, right? So looking at content, and as you mentioned earlier, in terms of no matter what is happening, it brings visibility to our country, to our culture.
That's right.
But then because of the amount of negative, the negative impression or the imprint that we have, it's all, I remember even the recent the Spice collaboration that's out there now, and
yes, Spice Shaggy and Sean Paul.
And Sean Paul, right? And it
Yes.
brings visibility to our country, yes. So applaud to that. But they made mention of the fact that because of our limited scope, our limited view of the industry, the artists themselves, they don't strive for anything greater, even when they're exposed to something greater than what is happening here. Because the truth is, the artists are making more money overseas.
Absolutely.
They're making tons more money overseas because they invest more in the arts in other countries. So, in my question is, how do we divert to get these artists to even see? Because many artists, I remember when I was in college, even getting, I won't call any names, but there were specific artists who would come to the college to get background vocalists. We would sing on stage with them, and
I
they
know
would
them.
never come and get a voice class.
I know them all.
Oh yes, they're off key on stage, but they're not coming to class. They're not going to even do a short course to even learn how to.
But let me tell you
fix
why.
that up.
Let me tell you why. And this is the solution is really simpler than we think. Those artists came to the Edna Manley College to find harmony singers and drummers and bass players and guitarists because they wanted people who were trained to support what they did artistically, because they saw the value of it in other people. But their managers were their brothers or their cousins or their girlfriends or their mothers or their sisters or a brethren from around the road. Now, if that is what their management team is comprised of, then the direction that they're going to be given is not going to be one which says to them, yes, you're DJing and you do a song and it busts in Jamaica. But if you must do a song that going to bust in the Latin market, you have to be able to enunciate. If you must do material that is going to break globally, you have to be able to do an interview. So we're going to take it to voice and speech class, not for you to try to twang, but for you to express yourself in clear language. Clear Jamaican language or clear English, but clear language, not just you want to see someone. If it is that there is not a team of professionals, persons who are trained in artist management, logistics, financial management, marketing, communications, then if we don't have these people around the products, how does Grace Kennedy sell bully beef? It's not cow farmers do it. It is people who are trained in marketing. and people who are trained in finance, and people who are trained in international business. The product is there. And so we get more farmers becoming rich because Grace is selling more things overseas. So we can have more family members of artists becoming rich if we have the structures in place around them to package them properly, oil them down good, steer them right, and make them an internationally, a globally marketable product. That's what we don't have. And we have people saying all sorts of things. But one of the smallest departments at the University of the West Indies is the Institute of Caribbean Studies that is doing amazing work training people in cultural enterprise management. But how many of them are going to be able to go out there and get a job immediately in artist management?
Exactly.
Because we don't have a culture that makes it up, that makes people know that this is real business, that this is a real endeavor. There are people still saying, if you choose to go to the end of my college, how wish for you'll get work. Where are you going to get work? I had to say to an artist manager the other day who is involved in construction. I had to put it down to brass tacks for him because I could not get a meeting with him more often than every other Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said to him, if this was one of your construction projects, you would meet with me as soon as I called you. If this was one of your construction projects, you would at the very least make time to meet with me tomorrow morning instead of telling me next week, Friday at 1. And you're an artist manager. I said, which one of your construction projects is able to make you 150,000 US dollars for 90 minutes worth of work? Which one? I was associate producer for the Jamaica Jazz and Blues Festival. Celine Dion was paid 1.5 million US dollars for 90 minutes worth of singing. 1.5 million United States dollars.
It hurts my
For
heart each time I
90
hear that.
minutes worth of singing. You tell me which industry in Jamaica, no matter how bossy, it could be neurosurgery, you tell me which one makes that for 90 minutes.
Exactly.
But we don't know, so we don't put systems behind it to make it make sense. I hope I've answered the question.
And I see Yuri, the see hand up.
Hi, Mr. Simpson. Good evening.
Good evening.
This topic has been one that has it's very dear to me, and as I go about, I find it very sometimes upsetting, even angering, in that there seems to be a disconnect between the talent and the contribution that Jamaica gives to the rest of the world. This is to say that even say the rappers, many of the younger rappers that we have in the United States now, they are of Jamaican parentage. So the idea as being an entertainer was born out of the fact that their parent or parents are Jamaicans. And so that's a direct spin-off of the contribution that Jamaica has made to the world.
Absolutely.
Additionally, I was living in Hawaii at one point where I saw this lady, a Chinese lady, Asian, let me say Asian lady. She was selling on the side of the road, and she had a banner, I think it was a sarong. I think the piece of thing was like a sarong. and it had Bob Marley on it. So I was just quite upset. And I said to her, "So who is this man?" She said, "Oh, it's a great man. I said, "What's his name?" I don't know. You know, and that
Just fashion.
it was just the fact that the minute you slap Jamaica, Bob Marley, or something Jamaican onto anything, any product, the value goes up. But this is overseas. But we tend not to understand the worth locally. That this is what happens overseas, the value goes up. You say Jamaican and the value goes up. In Jamaica, it seems to be that it has no value. And it's very upsetting to me. I don't
It has value in Jamaica, you know. It has value in Jamaica. The challenge is that we have been cultured to think that it must not have economic value. Remember, we've come from a history where our culture, our cultural practices, our gifts and our talents were to be used to placate us in the nighttime, to make us better workers on the plantation in the daytime. And that has not left us. That has not left us. The systems and structures that are in place are maintaining that. So what we do is that we keep them quiet in the night and we say, listen, they mustn't make too much noise. So we have something called the Noise Abatement Act, which is managed by the police. Mm-hmm. As opposed to putting systems in place to ensure that those who wish to be entertained in the night are entertained in spaces where they do not disturb those who work in the day and who need to sleep.
Correct.
Structure, we have not put structures in place. We just put laws in and we say, take one of them things and mash up something. And the frivolous people may waste time, run them and lock them up. And we would not do that if somebody was running an industry in the night. Because the port functions almost around the clock. The airports function almost around the clock. And they have noise associated with them, but we create a safe zone around it. And we say you can't have residential arrangements within how long? And we protect it because it's business. It's good for the economy of the country. But what we are doing in entertainment is not. It's optional. It's frivolous.
Yeah.
But that is our global competitive advantage. So because we're not putting structures in place. If we don't put structures, if we did not build roadways, if we did not build the North-South Highway, we couldn't have Rebel Saloon successfully at Priory because it would be hell to move people across the country. Infrastructure is important to make systems work. If we did not put in a fiber optic systems, people couldn't get the kind of internet that we need to function in an efficient way. We need physical structures and people need to plan and put things in place. So we just, Marva is saying laws have to protect those who are abused by those in entertainment with no moral values. I agree with you, but laws have to protect all of us. But there are people in all industries in Jamaica. I would go back again. There are people in all industries in Jamaica who have no moral turpitude. The records, the police records will tell you. You look and see who goes to prison for what. It's not just entertainers. The entertainers are popular because their names are in the news generally. So if something goes wrong, listen, if an entertainer and his girlfriend are in a fight, it makes the news. If a doctor and his girlfriend are in a fight, it will not make the news unless they do it in a crowded space. It is a matter of what is accessible. Who do people know and therefore what makes easy news.
Mm.
I'm saying we have creatives who are regular Jamaicans. There are lots of people who are like me, who are lawyers and event producers and musicians at the same time. Which one do I claim? So am I one of those people who are the entertainers who have no moral turpitude and who are destroying the country? I think not. And none of my friends are. But at the end of the day, it is very easy to lump them. I mean, taxi men are part of the mayhem of the country. But we don't call them entertainers because we don't know them. We just know them the name taxi man. So their business and what they do to cause chaos is just lumped as an anonymous taxi man. Taxi man and bus man.
So, Mr.
And then we say police to decide. You know, we like to do broad labels, but we need to consider more carefully what the options are when we put systems and structures in place. If we put laws in place, the laws must be balanced to ensure everyone's survival, but more importantly, to ensure that the country realizes its best potential. And a part of the challenge is that a lot of the people who are contributing to these laws being made don't understand what is required for the country to fulfill its best potential.
So, Mr.
And it's been a historic problem. Remember I said entertainment in Jamaica was what was used, grew out of the opiate of the people, religion and frivolous activity to keep the slaves comfortable and quiet. Bear it in mind.
We're going to ask for a motion of an extension of time.
Okay.
For 15 minutes.
Seconded, President.
So moved.
Yes, moved and seconded. Thank you. Proceed.
Simpson, how then do we, having recognized that all these things came about, us not having recognizing our value or worth or contribution, how then, or is there a way to bridge the gap? Because like I said, overseas where I live, you slap Jamaica on anything. Sometimes you see the chicken, Jamaican chicken. And I'm sure there's nothing in Jamaica that looks like that chicken. Slap Jamaica on the chicken and it's Jamaican chicken and it sounds like hotcakes.
So I'm part of a movement that is teaching intellectual property. When I came back from my studies in intellectual property, I went to the Ministry of Education to work. And my intention was to try to move the concept of intellectual property into schools. Was it successful? Because I was bringing a foreign idea and I couldn't push it from the bottom up. But if we do not understand as a country first of all, what is intellectual property? If we think that it is something, those copyright people, then we're already behind the 8 ball. So if we don't understand that brand Jamaica, when we say brand Jamaica, we're talking trademarks, we're talking personality rights, image rights, right? We're talking copyright, we're talking content. When we in Jamaica are here fighting over Arsenal or Manchester United, and everybody in Jamaica needs to get a shirt, and the TV stations have to buy the rights for you to watch the football match. That's intellectual property moving with a whole heap of money behind it, going out of the country. It's not earning us nothing here. But we are ingesting it. If we understood intellectual property, then we would say, hold on, we're going to talk about that. Because I had an experience recently and I probably shouldn't talk so much about it. But as the chairman of the Jamaica Reggae Industry Association, we produced our honor awards. And we did not air it on free-to-air TV in Jamaica because we couldn't pay for it. We are producing the premier award show in the Caribbean. And we would have needed to pay free-to-air TV in Jamaica to have it broadcast to Jamaica. That's a prime example of the value that we place on ourselves. But we buy the BET Awards, and we buy the Grammy Awards, and we buy the MOBO Awards, and we buy anything else that comes from foreign. And none of us not getting no awards there. We get one person might get a Grammy. But we pay money to show that in prime time on TV in Jamaica. And when we are putting together something that celebrates us, we have to pay to get it done. That is the kind of mindset I'm talking about. We have a challenge with. That's the kind of mindset. So if we don't understand how intellectual property functions, if we don't understand that what we have here is sellable and it can make us a rich nation just by how it is moved. If we don't move away from the thinking that we have to create more doctors and more lawyers to operate on each other and to carry each other to court, moving what product? Moving what product? The greatest countries in the world sell something to the rest of the world that they need. That is how it's gonna work. And we have what the rest of the world needs in creativity. So how are we packaging it and selling it to the rest of the world? If we don't figure that out, how do we package it to the world? So all now, we don't have a sensible creative industries policy or cultural policy. So one minister sees it this way, and the finance minister sees it another way, and the minister of industry sees it another way, and we get all these other different perspectives on it. And then the minister of local government says, well, okay, I don't know if me don't make it happen. And we have a fragmented country that has not coalesced around its best product. The same thing that happens with Jamaican football. We don't coalesce around that product, and it's a challenge. But that's another set of politics that I don't want to get involved. Not tonight. I don't want to use the extra 15 minutes we have been granted. So yes.
So question.
So it is about understanding intellectual property and understanding the business around creativity, which has to be taught in schools. It has to be taught more in the universities. I wanted to make intellectual property a university course at UWIC. That never happened. Thankfully, I've now received another opportunity to teach it to a select group of students. So every year we graduate probably 15 or 20 students who are well schooled in IP. And hopefully in another 5 years or so, there will be enough of them all over the place making decisions that will get to move us in another way. Because we don't just get up and realize one day. We have to have an army of people in the right spaces, influencing thought, and then we make it happen. Otherwise, we have to be a dictatorship where the leader of the country said it and it happened. And we ain't getting there. So it's infiltration. And this is a part of the infiltration.
I have a question that's kind of to the intellectual property, and it's a question that came up in the chat early on. It says, is there any way that the children of older artists who did not monetize their art can claim the rights, for example, music that is used in billion-dollar films?
Yes. Yes, they can. Because copyright in particular does not require registration to be owned. Once it is created by the creator, there's a presumption that it belongs to him or her. If he dies, the intellectual property, the copyright, the rights in copyright survive, and it's different lengths of time in different countries. But the rights in copyright survive at least 50 years after he or she dies. Those rights are property rights, and therefore they are rights of their survivors. So their estate can manage those rights. And it is even better if there are people still alive who were a part of the creation that gave rise to those rights, because it means that the time does start to run yet. Because once you have co-authorship and there is any one of the co-authors still alive, the time starts to run when the last surviving one did. And a lot of those scenarios still exist. But if it's one person and it's dead, and it has to be more than 50 years. In some spaces, and there it's 75 years, in some spaces it's 90 years, depending on where it's happening. But I'm saying, if their children can still claim, because it is still their intellectual property. And so it inures to their estate.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question I'd like to pose to our guest. Okay, I'm thinking of two things. It's a kind of a two-part question. But I hear you talking about the structures that need to be in place. And I'm not sure how much of this is government responsibility as opposed to the private sector. I'm kind of wondering, is it because we are a small country why we tend to think that we need the government to be a major part of it? Even though I know that you use an example of the highway and therefore some government involvement is necessary. But who is responsible for creating the structure that we need?
All right. It's a combination.
That was the first question. I do have another one. Mm-hmm.
All right. So you want me to answer this one first and then we take the next one?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Go ahead and answer this.
So in order for, just like any other system, whether banking and finance, manufacturing, whatever they are, there's a combination of private and public sector involvement that is critical. National policy is set by government. Laws are enacted in parliament. Those structures are critical to the survival, to the propagation, to the flourishing of any industry. So government cannot divorce itself of the responsibility, to the significant responsibility in putting structures in place. However, even if the government puts the structure in place and private enterprise, private investment is uninterested, what happens at that point? The reality is that if private enterprise pushes against the government, it forces their hand because they want to please private enterprise. So if it is only the little poor man down in the corner who making noise, then nothing happens. But if people who have means and want to invest say, where are the structures? It happens. So what really needs to happen is that there need to be more people having conversations like these who are then saying, okay, what are we missing here? We're missing fiscal policy, which accounts for earnings and investment in creative industries. That's one side. Then somebody says there needs to be infrastructural policy that accounts for the building of spaces within which these things can occur and so on. There needs to be import policy that allows for tools of trade and all of these things to move freely and so on. All of these structures need to be in place and they need to happen together. But different people need to be pushing at different doors, and then the whole will come together. Just like a manufacturing industry just did not get up and happen one day, you know. People were making things and having issues.
Yes, I'd just like to comment here very quickly. A lot is you and that to bring in a camera crew, a sound crew, or a band, etc., with their equipment, they have to put up a bond to divide for a temporary import, right? So those are some of the issues that have to be worked through so that you know, you have the other forms of security.
Absolutely.
If you have a cricket match at Sabina, 5 camera crews arrive, and none of them can put up the bond. They would make it coverage, you know.
Absolutely. So it is. I mean, you understand perfectly from.
And the artists travel abroad as well, and the bands and the technical team, you know.
Same challenges. So we have to see, we have to understand. For example, for a long time, there were persons who did not know what equipment was used for what in the entertainment industry. It was strange. People would come to customs and they would have a form with different things, and somebody said, "No, sir, that can't go so. You can't." We have a challenge because there's an information deficiency, and it frustrated people. So a lot of our creatives did not bring in the equipment that they needed to be more efficient because it was too hard to do. And because they could bring it in, you know, if they were able to get a bank loan to do it. But if they were going to use the little money that they make on the side to purchase it, they would never be able to make it happen. So tooling and retooling, which we will allow when we want to do greenhouse farming. We put systems in place. When we want to do solar energy, we put systems in place. We must do similar things to ensure that we have efficiencies in the creative industries. That is the kind of approach I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just ask the second one now?
Sure.
It's about the product now. When you think about a lot of Jamaican music, and I'm not saying 100%, but a lot of Jamaican music, it is, okay, we have a preponderance of drum and bass. You know, in other words, what I'm not hearing, or I don't know if it's just because maybe I'm not exposed to it, but I'm wondering why isn't there more of an experimentation of other instruments that could create a greater production? I'm wondering, is it that producers are trying to produce music as cheaply as possible? You know, you create a rhythm and you have 50 songs on the same rhythm, or if you can make a money by spending, let's use a number, $100, why spend 1,000? You know, I'm wondering if that is the mentality, and I'm wondering if that has had a negative effect on the quality of the product, or is there no incentive to make a really good product because maybe you're not going to get a return on it? Could you just speak on that?
There's a combination of things, like in any industry. There are those people who are going to make an informed a judgment call. I can't spend more than this because I can't afford to have to lose my house to make a song. And I can't get a loan to invest in paying a pianist, a cellist, a guitarist, a bassist, a trumpeter, a flugelhorn player,
violins,
and so on, and so on, to put an orchestra in a studio. And then, how many studios do we have that can hold an orchestra to make it happen anyway? So I would have to go build it if that's what I wanted, or I'm going to have to go around to different studios to make it happen because the facilities don't exist. So that's one. So we work with what we have, just like we created the sound system out of need, out of circumstance. Good? So there's that, and it happens. But then our creativity makes it something that has been globally recognized as very marketable. But how are we going to market it if we do not have the right skills and the right people with the right budget to push it globally? I'm going to go back to K-pop. K-pop had a budget. It had a national decision. I don't know where they get the money from, if them just use them coffers, or if they requisition some of their private sector funding, or if they gave tax breaks and tax incentives to private sector to invest in it, so that's how they got the funding. I don't know how they did it to find the money, but there was a budget to move it and a timeline and a strategy. And it has now mushroomed where they don't need to carry it anymore. It carries itself. I'm saying Jamaica, brand Jamaica. I mean, you think that it's too much drum and bass. I don't know if I agree, because there's a whole heap of, I mean, drum and bass is who we are. That's the truth. But we have managed to color it and texture it in so many different ways. I mean, if you think of the catalog of Dennis Brown, and the catalog of Beres Hammond, and the catalog of Bob Marley, just use those three. You don't want a more diverse catalog of Jamaican music. We're not going to add Toots to the mix, and Joseph Hill to the mix, and Marcia Griffith to the mix, and Diana King to the mix. If we go there, we go on even broader. It's not just drum and bass. Third world. My friend Kat would have beaten me in the head if you mean a call third world. So I'm just saying, those things are in the mix, you know. And the world knows us for what they know us for. And we can, listen, you can't tell people in West Coast USA about rock and roll. They make it, that's what they live by. They have those festivals every day somewhere. And it's a billion-dollar industry. We don't need to try to compete in somebody else's market. Monty Alexander is a Jamaican who grew up in the Bronx, playing piano. He didn't try to play jazz better than the Black Americans or the white Americans. What he did was reinterpret Jamaican folk songs and play mentor stylings over it that none of them could do. And that made him stand out as different. If he went there to try to play the same kind of jazz as the rest of them, he would have drowned. So we must do what is us. And we must package what is us. And we must market what is us, using the structures and systems of business. People in here who have the skills to do international trade, to do logistics and planning and all of these things must think, how do I move a product that is creative from point A to point B and make it profitable? And that is the approach that we must take.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Yuan. And at this time, I'm going to invite Yuan and Dr. Andrew.
President Richard.
Yes.
Sorry to break into your wrapping up.
Yes.
There's just an observation that I'm asking you if I could just make.
Yes, please do one, and we'll proceed with the vote of thanks.
Okay, and it won't be the vote of thanks, but I just realized, you see, President Richard, that you and Simpson had something in common with Ambassador Sheila Monteith, who was with us 20 days ago.
Absolutely.
That they gave a beautiful presentation. I realized that both of them went to Glenmuir. And I had to point that out in the absence of in the presence of the silence from the normal, from KC and JC and Seabar and Woolmuds. I couldn't let that pass without.
I'm happy that you didn't let it pass.
and also, I must add quickly that I couldn't let it pass because I made a call while he was doing his presentation to my sister who was in class with him all the way at Glenmuir, and she said he was from those times, Janice Ramdale.
Ah, Janice!
Yeah, so she says he has always
Please give her
been
my
bright.
regards.
So she's not surprised.
Yes.
Thank you, President Richard.
Yes, well said, well said. Thank you. Over to you, Andrew.
All right, evening, and thank you so much. I think I echo the sentiment in the chat and in the room when I say thank you, Mr. Simpson, not just for the wealth of content that you shared, but also in such an impassioned way in which you communicated to us and delivered it. I think it was well received. You gave us all a lot of food for thought. I just paraphrase something that you said and said with a lot of impact every time, that our boundless creative content is like fruit falling from trees. And it's up to us now as people who are dedicated to see our country moving forward and to tap into these resources that we have to really continue the conversation going forward from here and to see that structure is established. And we thank you so much for everything and for all the thoughts and ideas that you've exposed us to, things like exploitation and intellectual property, well, appropriate use, exploitation, intellectual property, right. And the business around creativity. And as I said, this was a nice group to start the conversation, and I think we will go forth from here educated and empowered to make a change. Thanks.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks to your Mr. Peart for insisting.
You're most welcome, Mr. Simpson. Great presentation.
Yes. And excellent. We have a presentation of a certificate of appreciation to you from the club. This is the virtual one, and DP Stewart will arrange to have one presented to you shortly. Once again, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
We now will move to notices and announcements, as we have an apology from our Sarge. So I invite DLG Willie Reason to bring the notices and announcements. That will be followed by the thought of the week by DP Stewart. And then we'll move to Germany.
Thank you, President Richard. Notices, just to bring to the attention of the members, we are going to be collaborating with the Kiwanis Club of Cyber Connect in a fundraising event next month. On August 12th, we'll be doing the benefit performance of Basil Dawkins' play, Mojo and Flo at the Little Theater. Cost is $2,000. I've been advised that we should get the tickets by Friday. Make a note, important meeting next month is the induction ceremony on August 24th. On September 12th, we have Kiwanis for Disability Day church service at the Boulevard Baptist Church at 9 a.m. And on the 26th, we will be having the President's End of Administration church service. So far as interclub opportunities tomorrow, we have been invited to Kiwanis Club of Trafalgar. They meet at 7. We'll also be invited by the Kiwanis Club of the Bahamas, where our own governor will be the guest speaker, and that begins at 6:30. Details will be sent out in the group tomorrow. On Thursday, next week, 15th, we have a special invited by our children, the Kiwanis Club of Mandeville, to their guest night, and that begins at 6:30. Unless there's any announcements by visiting clubs, those are notices and announcements, President Richard.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no other notices and announcements, we would then move to the thought of the week. Over to you, DP Stewart.
Thank you, President Richard. Yes, I have 2 thoughts this week, as usual. 1 second, let me just ask my granddaughter to this. Jay? Okay. Challenges are what makes life interesting. and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. And the other one I have is kind of touches a bit on what we were talking about tonight. It says, don't get into the habit of empowering your circumstances over your creativity. And I'm gonna give, and that one we got from a previous guest speaker. It was Chris Stokes. Don't get into the habit of empowering your circumstances over your creativity. Those are the thoughts for the week, President Richard.
Thank you very much. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, and our special guests. At this time, I invite you to raise your glasses in a toast to Kiwanis International, Jamaica, land we love.
Kiwanis International, and Jamaica, land we love.
This meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston is hereby terminated.